vote had been unanimous. Almost. Across the grand hall of the Concordium, 1,000 alien delegates had raised their appendages, mandibles, pseudopods, or telekinetic glows in solemn agreement. Exterminate the Vartal. One species didn't. The humans sat in the back, sipping tea. Ambassador Evelyn Cross leaned over to her aide and whispered, "Well, that escalated quickly." Then, louder, pleasantly, even cheerfully, she said, "Earth votes no." The silence that followed could have strangled stars. "Human delegate," hissed the Archon of Talar, a serpentine being whose scales glittered with authority. "They burned colonies, consumed planets, and boiled oceans. You would spare them?" Evelyn smiled, the kind of polite Tea Party smile that had preceded several historical wars. "We were under the impression this council prevented extinction events, not organized them." Weeks later, 10,000 Vartal refugee ships appeared over Earth. They weren't sleek, they weren't stable. Some were held together with what looked suspiciously like desperation and scrap metal, but they carried 10,000 souls who had seen every other world in the galaxy close its ports and point its guns outward. And Earth just waved them in. "Humans," spat the Archon of Talar, slamming a clawed fist on the Concordium table. "You endanger the balance. You harbor a plague species." Evelyn stirred her coffee. "Funny, they said the same about us 2 centuries ago." Around the chamber, alien diplomats exchanged glances. Everyone knew about the Terran expansion, how humans had gone from backwater primates to interstellar power in a blink. They'd done it with an alarming cheerfulness, trading as fast as they fought, smiling while planting flags. The Vartal were monsters. They had devoured worlds. But humans had simply bought them, rebranded them, and invited their children to join universities. "What could possibly go wrong?" Evelyn asked, smiling like someone who already knew the answer. On Earth, things were chaotic. The Vartal were insectoid, towering, and utterly terrifying to behold. Their translator devices hissed like snakes. They were born in hives that worshipped suns and consumed minerals for sustenance. And yet, humans welcomed them with food trucks, paperwork, and memes. At first it was simple confusion. The Vartal drones stood in line for hours to receive housing assignments, being offered pamphlets with phrases like, "Welcome home," and "Please don't eat the wildlife." One particularly large drone blinked as a human volunteer handed it a steaming cup of coffee. "Caution, hot," she said. The Vartal stared at the rising steam. "It burns?" "Deliciously," she replied. By the end of the week, half of them were caffeine addicts. Across the galaxy, the reaction was less enthusiastic. Rumors spread. Earth was building an army of monsters. Human ships were seen refitting Vartal freighters with sleek armor and efficient engines. Drone hives were being converted into factories. "Are you arming them?" demanded the council. Evelyn folded her hands neatly on the table. "No, Ambassador, we're hiring them. They needed jobs. We needed engineers. It's called synergy." "Synergy?" screamed the Archon. "You're rehabilitating genocidal war beasts." "Rehabilitating?" she said, tapping her datapad. "We prefer the term training program. Much better for morale." For 3 months, the galaxy held its breath. Reports filtered out from the Sol system, Vartal drones working side by side with human construction crews, hives learning environmental ethics, human children riding on their armored backs like carnival attractions. The once feared Vartal were, impossibly, fitting in. Then came the incident. A Concordium patrol ship, Talar made, strayed too close to Jupiter orbit. It had been monitoring, though the humans called it snooping. When its captain fired a warning pulse at a Vartal cargo ship, the humans politely asked them to stop. They didn't. So the cargo ship retaliated. No one quite understood what happened next, only that it ended with the patrol ship neatly disassembled into component molecules and reassembled into a sculpture labeled Consequences. The human statement was simple. Accidents happen in war zones. Please avoid our airspace. The council convened an emergency session. "This is madness," shouted the Archon. "They're rebuilding an empire." Evelyn tilted her head. "Funny, we thought we were rebuilding lives." "And you humans defy order," screamed another. "You harbor killers." "And yet," Evelyn said softly, "none of them have killed anyone since we offered them sanctuary. Interesting, isn't it? Maybe extermination wasn't the only solution. Maybe it was just the easiest one." Her calm tone unnerved them more than shouting ever could. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, something extraordinary was happening. The Vartal, with human supervision, had begun construction on a ring, a vast, shimmering halo stretching across the upper atmosphere, part defense system, part research array, part architectural art. Officially, it was a peace infrastructure project. Unofficially, it scared the absolute plasma out of the galaxy. No one knew what it did, and humans weren't telling. When a Concordium scout drone tried to scan it, it simply vanished, leaving behind a polite message in perfect galactic standard. "Unauthorized photography prohibited. Have a nice day." The Vartal Queen, once a warlord who had devoured a star system, now resided in Geneva, Switzerland. Her translator device buzzed constantly as she struggled with human idioms. "You joke," she said one day to Evelyn, "even when threatened?" "It's how we keep sane," Evelyn replied. The Queen clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "You are strange, dangerous, yet kind. That's humanity in a nutshell. But kindness has consequences." When word spread that the Vartal were thriving under human protection, refugees from other condemned species began to follow. Small ships, unmarked, limping across the void towards the blue-green world that had said no to extermination. By the thousands they came. Earth skies filled with desperate signals. "Please, one chance." And impossibly, humanity said yes again. The Concordium panicked. Armadas assembled. Ultimatums were sent. The message was clear. Return the refugees or face sanctions. Evelyn arrived at the emergency summit in her usual calm attire, Earth's blue and white pin on her lapel, smile sharp enough to cut hull plating. "Sanctions?" she asked, sipping her coffee. "We make half your food, a third of your medicine, and 80% of your entertainment exports. Please, sanction us harder." The Archon's scales flared crimson. "You cannot defy the galaxy." "Defy?" she said sweetly. "Oh no, Ambassador. We're just leading by example." Then came the fleet. Not Earth's, the Concordium's. 5,000 ships, Flagships of the most powerful civilizations in known space appeared on Sol's borders. They expected war. They got silence. Then every satellite, every station, every screen lit up with one message, broadcast from Earth itself. The Refuge Accords. Evelyn's face appeared, calm and bright, the kind of smile usually reserved for diplomatic ceremonies and casual annihilation. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, "you built a system where the weak die quietly and the strong pretend it's necessary. We disagree. Earth will now serve as a sanctuary for any species marked for extermination. You may call it a rebellion, we call it humanity." And behind her, the ring came alive. It pulsed once,